Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylee and these are my books. So today's video is so exciting because it is my Q&A video for hitting 1,000 subscribers. I never thought I would be here hitting 1,000 subscribers. I am so happy that people like my channel and that you all are here to watch my videos and come to my sprints. I have so much fun with this channel. I was really needing a hobby. I was really needing a way to exist in a community online, get some more friends, be more social, and so booktube has been such a blessing. And I'm just so thankful. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, watching my content, chatting with me online. Because really, I mean, my life is so much more full with booktube in it. I've made so many incredible friends that I think are going to be lifelong friends from just having this channel for a couple of months. So it's just, I freaking love booktube, and thank you all so much for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. So to celebrate hitting 1,000 subscribers, I thought I would do a Q&A video because I've never really done one on my channel, and so I asked on Instagram and on YouTube for your questions, and I have a list of them here that I will be answering. I am going to start with the bookish ones and then move into the booktube ones and then move into the personal ones. So the bookish ones will be about like book content. Booktube ones will be more about like channel questions, and then the personal ones are just about my life. And there's a couple questions about Teddy, which I'm so excited to answer. So the first bookish question I'm going to answer is asking me about tropes that I don't like. So tropes I don't like is difficult because it's so easy for me to name tropes I like, but tropes I don't like is a bit harder for me to name just because, you know, sometimes I'm like, is it the trope I don't like or is it the book itself I don't like? But I do have an answer. So some of the tropes I dislike is I dislike the amnesia trope, but I have a very specific qualification for why I dislike the amnesia trope. And sometimes when amnesia is used, I don't mind it. So the reason why I dislike the amnesia trope is when we are following a character, we're seeing them develop, and then they get amnesia and forget everything, and they start over. I hate that. Because it's like all this character development that happened before the amnesia is lost and suddenly we don't know the character anymore. So I hate when the amnesia trope is used partway into a book or partway through a series. When I don't mind the amnesia trope is when it happens right at the beginning and a character starts out with amnesia because I don't already know them and therefore I haven't lost the character development. But anytime a character forgets their whole life, which it feels like this would be a very niche trope, but it's not. It comes up all the time, especially in fantasy. But whenever a character has amnesia partway through a book, when I already have gotten to know the character, I hate it. Hate it. Because it's like, what's the point of reading about that character up until that point if the character doesn't even remember any of that stuff? Like, what's the point? It's so annoying. Another trope that I really dislike is when a character in fantasy is really powerful and then loses their powers. Now, this is not a trope that makes me immediately hate the book, but it just annoys me every time because it feels a little bit cheap to me. Like, okay, yeah, they got too powerful and then you couldn't figure out how to write them in the story with having all that power, so you just had to strip it away. It's like, come on, the power was so fun to read about. I love reading about overpowered characters too. Like, I just love to read about badass characters. I don't mind if everything's too easy for them. I just find it fun to read about. And so I always get really sad when an overpowered character suddenly loses all their powers. And the last trope that immediately comes to mind is most often used in romance, but it's used across all the different genres, is an over-reliance on the miscommunication trope. So I understand miscommunication is natural, right? Everyone miscommunicates from time to time. But what I hate about this trope is when an entire conflict is started out of something that could be resolved if the character asks their other character one simple question. So when it's a miscommunication that's built off of just misunderstanding of one simple thing, that's when I hate it because it's just so ridiculous. And I'm like, just ask them. Why are you assuming all this stuff? If you're supposed to be in love with this person beforehand, why don't you give them the benefit of the doubt and just ask them like an adult? Just type it out. You could text it to them. Hey, did you say this thing? And they could say, no, I did not. And then we get it all resolved and there's no third act breakup. So yeah, miscommunication, if it's more complicated than that, then it's fine. But if it's just a simple thing where the character randomly doesn't feel like asking the other character something, I hate it. I hate it, hate it, hate it. I'm getting out of breath. I got really passionate about those tropes. Oh my God. So next question is asking who my favorite book boyfriends are. And this is fun to think about. So I definitely gotta shout out the classic book boyfriend of, this is not the book that I thought it was. Here we go, of A Court of Mist and Fury, Reese. This book, oh, Reese. I freaking love Reese. Another favorite book boyfriend is really weird, but also called Reese. So apparently Reese is just a hot name, but Reese in Twisted Games by Anna Huang. He's a bodyguard. He falls in love with the princess he's protecting. Love. And last but not least, my favorite book boyfriend that I want to shout out is Hades in Neon Gods. Hades is amazing in here. I love him. So the next bookish question is possibly the most difficult question that I've ever had to answer in my entire life, and it is, what are my top 3 favorite books? Not giving me a genre to choose from, not giving me a year to choose from, just my top 3 favorite books of all time? Like, what? So I am attempting to answer this, but just know if you ask me tomorrow, my answers could change, okay? I don't stand by these being my top 3 books every single day, but today these are my top 3 favorite books. First of which is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is an adult fantasy book that I've reread this probably 4 or 5 times at this point. Love it so much. Specifically, the first book is my favorite. Next up, it's coming up again, you know, Court of Mist and Fury. I've reread this book so many times. I love it every single time I reread it. I oftentimes will just reread this book out of the whole series because book 2 is just so good. Reese has my heart. I love Feyre too. But yeah, Court of Mist and Fury, so good. And then next up is a newer favorite, but I've already read it twice this year, and it is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is an adult sci-fi book that has some thriller aspects, but it also is just so wholesome. There's this like character friendship in here that's the best friendship I've ever read about in my life, I can confidently say. So yeah, Project Hail Mary, I love it so much. Next question is asking me if there's any book I read recently that I thought I would hate, but I actually loved, and it was Kindred. I read this in October, gave it 5 stars, was obsessed with it. I was just a little bit nervous of reading this book because it is historical fiction, and historical fiction is very hit or miss for me, but the sci-fi elements with the time travel in this historical fiction along with the brilliant character work really sold this book and made it a new favorite. Next question is there something overall that I look for in all books, no matter the genre? Because I do read quite a few different genres. So is there anything that I look for across all the different genres? And my answer is kind of cheating, but basically a book has to have one of these 2 things in it for me to like it. It has to have lovable characters that I want to read about and care about. So specifically care about and love the characters. Just because a character is unlikable but interesting doesn't make them fit this criteria. So specifically criteria number 1 is lovable characters that I care about. Or a book with a fun plot. So, because a lot of times people say whether or not you're character driven or plot driven. And I feel like I'm a little bit of both. But for it to be character driven, I really need to love the characters. If it's character driven with unlikable characters or just complicated characters that you don't really care about or love, then that's not enough for me. But on the other side, a plot driven book, as long as the plot is fast paced and fun, I will like it. The characters can be weak. I don't need interesting characters in a book that has an interesting plot. So basically that's what I look for in books. Either lovable characters that I care about or a fun plot. But that makes it hard, of course, because I never know when I'm going to get emotionally invested in a character. Because just because a character is a good person doesn't mean I love them. So it's very subjective of when I deem a character lovable. Which means I will pick up basically any book to try. There's no book that I will look at, especially within my preferred genres, and be like, I'm not gonna like that. Because you never know if I'm gonna fall in love with a character. Next up is, are there any genres that I wish I read more of? And the answer to this question is kind of boring, but no. I feel like I read many genres and I'm happy with the genres that I read. I don't read a ton of historical fiction or literary fiction, but I don't wish I read more of them. The grammar. I don't wish that I read more of them. It's more like they just don't interest me, so I don't want to read more of them. I'm cool with my sci-fi, fantasy, horror, thriller, romance, mystery, all of those type of books. That's what I like to read. Okay, so now we're moving out of the bookish questions and moving into the booktube questions. First question is, sorry, I'm reading off of this because it's a little tiny bit longer. I don't want to make sure I don't forget anything. How did you find the courage to start your channel? How did you know how to edit? And did you have a camera right away? So 3 different questions that I'm lumping them together because it's all kind of about how I started. And courage to start. I've been wanting to have a channel for years. I've been watching booktube for years. I've been wanting to have a channel for years. It took me years to build up the courage to start the channel. And really the courage just came from the fact that I was so lonely. That's so pathetic to say, but you know, I moved to a new state. I live in Texas. All of my family and friends live in different states for me. Texas is quite large, so that means all of them are, you know, a plane ride away. I think the closest friend that I have before I moved to Texas is still at least a 12-hour drive, so no one I can go easily visit. And I'm a grad student. I do not make a ton of money, which means I can't go visit people all the time because it's expensive. So I was out here and I was really wanting to be more social than I currently was able to, and so I turned to an online community to meet that social quota that I was wanting to have. And so the courage just came from desperation to talk. And what better way to talk than to film myself talking to a camera and talk to all of you online, you know? So I don't really have a good advice on how to find the courage to start because the courage just came from desperation for me. But also I would say to help with the courage, no one is really gonna watch your first video, you know, like even if you post about it in a bunch of places, it's not like your first video is gonna go viral. Videos in booktube don't do that, especially even for like big creators. In terms of YouTube itself, big creators in booktube are still fairly small for all of YouTube itself. And so for you just starting out, and even my videos today, most booktubers on the platform, we're so small that no one is going to watch your videos unless they want to watch your video, which means you already have a viewer that's interested in what you're talking about when you are making your video. I think that's really important to think about because that means people are already interested in what you have to say. So just talk about it. It's like you're just having a conversation with other book lovers. And everyone on booktube is so supportive and so nice. Again, I've made so many friends from the couple of months that I've been on booktube. It's honestly the best decision I ever made. So if you're wanting to start a channel, just freaking do it. You don't have to tell anyone about your first video if you don't want to. Just make it and post it and you're gonna feel so much better. And then when you post it, you're gonna get a boost in confidence and maybe you start telling people about your channel. Maybe you start posting the link on social media links on Discord and stuff like that. And then you can get some viewers and try to find some more friends in the community. But about editing and camera, I just use my phone to film. Most smartphones that aren't super old have cameras that are more than enough high quality for booktube. Booktube is not a platform that you need the highest quality stuff. I would say put zero money into your channel when you're first starting out because you're already spending the money on books. That's already expensive. And you're not gonna be making money from your channel. Like if you're starting a channel to make money, it's a bad decision because you're not gonna make money. So if you can't afford a camera, or even if you can, but you just would rather use the money on books, just don't get a camera. Use your phone, use whatever you have. Because quality is less important on booktube than I think it is on other platforms. Of course, you don't want it to be like incredibly bad quality, but it doesn't have to be an expensive camera is what I'm saying. Your phone camera is good enough. And editing, I just use iMovie. It's gonna be a learning curve. The best way to learn how to edit is just to try to edit. That's what I did. And you can start with doing a barely there edit. And then as you get more comfortable, start trying to edit your videos more and more and more. But the only really important things you need to know is where to cut, and that's it, really. As long as you just can cut out long pauses of where you're not saying anything, that's good enough editing for booktube. And again, as you get more comfortable with just cutting your videos, which means just cutting out like pauses and stuff. So like if I'm saying this sentence and then continuing to talk, I might cut out that pause that I just did in between. But as you get more comfortable with the cuts, then you can experiment with other more fancy edits. The next question was asking me if I will ever start a Patreon. I would love to, but I'm not gonna start it unless people are interested in it. So I'm still too small, I think, to even think about a Patreon at all. But you know, down the line, if I continue to grow, if I continue to have people that are interested in my content, maybe I could start a Patreon, but it's a very, very distant goal. The thing about Patreon is it's a lot of work for the creator, right? Because you're making a ton of new content and it's not going on YouTube. It's only going for the people on your Patreon, which means it's a ton of work that's going to a very small group of people. And you need to make sure you're making enough money from the Patreon for it to be worth all the extra hours of content that you're making. So I wouldn't make a Patreon until I knew that more than 1 or 2 people would subscribe to the Patreon, you know? Like, maybe once I think like 10 people would subscribe, I'd make one. I'm joking, kind of. But basically, yes, I would like to make a Patreon, but way farther down the line. Next question is, what is my favorite thing about booktube? And definitely the people. Again, I created a booktube channel to make connections to people. So if you've ever commented on my video, chatted with me on Instagram or on my sprints, you are my favorite thing about booktube. I've made so many real friendships on booktube with other booktube creators and people who watch booktube. It's just added so much to my life. I'm suddenly talking to so many people from around the world. So the goal that I had when I started my channel was to make friends. And I would definitely say mission accomplished because I have made friends. I've met so many amazing people. Next up is asking me about the video that I'm the most proud of, and my first answer is a little cheesy, and it's not for being proud of it in the way that you might think, but it's my first video. I'm the most proud of my first video because that means I actually had the courage to start my channel. I finally started it. So I'm very proud of my first video for actually posting a video publicly online. But in terms of videos that I think are the highest quality or the best videos, that would probably be near the bottom of the list since it's the first video. But other than that, videos that I'm the most proud of are probably my TBR game videos, just because I have so much fun doing them, and I made that TBR game all myself. I made the board. I'm not a crafty person. I know to other crafty people, you probably see my board and you're like, oof, but for me, that was a big accomplishment. So probably my TBR game videos are the ones I'm most proud of. The next question is one idea for a video that I've had for a while but haven't had the chance to create yet. And I have 2 answers to this question. So one is I wanted to do a video where Jeff Bezos picks my TBR. And basically I have one of those Amazon tablets where it has the ads at the top of the screen for just random books on Kindle. And I've been screenshotting the ads that I've gotten, and I want to read the books that are randomly advertised to me from Amazon. But I just haven't had the chance to read those books yet because I've been so busy each month. But I'm really hoping that in the beginning of next year, I can make that video. And that will be a reading vlog. And then I also want to make a video where I read my subscribers' favorite books. So I'm hoping to, at the end of December, maybe post on YouTube or on Instagram or somewhere where I ask all of you guys what your favorite books of the year were and make a series of reading vlogs where I try out your favorite books, because I think that would be a lot of fun. I know I have a series on my channel where I try out other booktubers' favorite books, but I would like to make a companion series where I try out my subscribers' favorite books. So I've been wanting to do that for a while, but I've just been waiting because I wasn't sure the best way to solicit book recommendations for all of you. But I think you should see a post on the community tab for my channel, maybe towards the end of December, or you can leave me a comment down below with what your favorite books of the year were and what books you think I should read for a subscriber's favorite video reading vlog. All right, now we're moving out of booktube questions and into personal questions. So we're starting with a very personal first question. Are you ready to know much more about me? I'm getting real personal on here. The question is, what is my favorite pasta shape? You're really about to learn a lot. My favorite pasta shape is, drumroll please, angel hair pasta. I love the very thin noodles because then you get maximum sauce to noodle ratio. And they're long, so it feels more fun to eat. You can scoop it up and have like a ton hanging off and eat it like an animal, but they're thin, so that each bite has a good amount of sauce with the pasta. It's the perfect way to have pasta. Angel hair is the best, and I will not be taking any other answers. Next question is, where do I see myself in 3 years? And I hopefully see myself in a different state. My issue isn't with Texas as a state. My issue is that I don't know anyone that lives in Texas, and I would really like to move back closer to my friends or family. I have friends that are spread out all across America, and all of my family is in Southern California. So ideally, I live in a state that one of my friends lives in, or I move back to Southern California. So geographically, I see myself in California in 3 years, hopefully. And also in 3 years, I see myself as not as a graduate student anymore, because I should be all done with my program in 3 years. So hopefully I have a real adult job, not being a grad student anymore. And therefore, hopefully I'm making an actual salary instead of just a tiny stipend. Next question is, what pets do I have? I only have one pet. His name is Teddy. I'm about to grab him. He's sitting on the chair behind me right now. So this is Teddy. He is my baby. He is 2 years old, and he is a mini golden doodle, and he is the cutest little boy ever, even though he wants to eat my lipstick off of my face. But yeah, so I only have one pet, and it is a dog named Teddy. Next question is, when did I get Teddy, and what's the story behind me and Teddy? So I'm gonna grab Teddy again. So I got Teddy during the pandemic, during 2020. I had just moved to Texas, and it was impossible to make friends because we weren't supposed to leave our houses and everything was online. So I got very, very lonely and wanted a dog. I've been wanting a dog for forever, but I just kind of got incredibly desperate for a dog and needed one right away. And I actually was trying to get a rescue dog for a while because, you know, rescues are always better to get if you're able to get one. Okay, Teddy is getting so heavy, I have to put him down. He's like 28 pounds. He's a chunky boy. So here's one more view of him before I put him back on the ground. But I was getting denied from every single animal shelter and rescue organization because at that time there were so many people that were wanting dogs. They were able to be incredibly picky with who was getting the dogs. And so because I live in an apartment without a yard, and because I had never had a dog that I owned before, even though I grew up with dogs my whole life, I had never owned my own dog before. That excluded me from the ability to rescue a dog from any of the shelters nearby me or any of the rescue organizations that I was able to drive to. So I ended up getting Teddy from a responsible breeder. He was so freaking expensive, but he was worth it. He was very worth it, but holy crap, he was so expensive. And we've been best buddies ever since. And the last question is asking me, when did I start reading? And who or what gave me the love of reading? I've always been a reader ever since I was young. I actually would even sometimes get in trouble for reading books when I was little. I was the kid that was reading books when you were not supposed to be reading books, in school, at family events, just in general. I always had a book with me. My mom is also a big reader, so I'm sure she's the one that got me into reading, but some series that I loved in like elementary school definitely was Harry Potter. Of course, I've lost my love for Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling's actions, but back when they were first coming out, I freaking loved Harry Potter. That got me into reading for sure. I think I was in 2nd grade when I started reading those books, and I just was obsessed. I would reread them because the series wasn't completed yet. So I would read the books that were out, finish them, and then immediately start rereading them because I was so obsessed. I also loved the Artemis Fowl series. I loved the Percy Jackson books, although those got released a little bit later. I think I was in middle school. I love the Septimus Heap series. I loved the Magic Tree House books. I loved all those kind of books. Oh, and Animorphs. I loved Animorphs too. So yeah, those are all of the questions. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and asking me these questions. I have so much fun with BookTube. I have so much fun creating content and running sprints and talking with you all. So again, thank you. If you've ever watched one of my videos, liked one of my videos, commented on one of my videos, attended one of my sprints, I really appreciate you. If you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.